All right, guys, welcome to our next chapter. This is the High King's Embassy. If you'll recall in the last chapter, we just met three different women in Troy. Specifically, we took a look at the goddess Athena or Athene. We looked at Helen, and then we also looked at Andromache, Hector's wife. So we're going to continue hearing about Hector, the Trojan warrior, but then we're also going to meet and learn about a Greek hero named Ajax. So follow along with me on page 40. Paris caught up with his brother, and they went down from the Scaean gate together as though there had been no hard words between them, and plunged back into the fight. In their coming, the Trojans took fresh heart and rallied. Once again, the battle surged outward from the walls of Troy, and the Greeks were driven back and back, almost to the black ships. And so terrible was the slaying among them that Athene, seeing the slaughter as she looked down from the peaks of Olympus, paid no heed to the jeweled robe newly laid across the knees of her statue in the great temple of the high city of Troy. She determined to stop the fighting for what remained of that day. Okay, so remember in the last chapter, Hector has to go and find his brother Paris. Paris was supposed to be out there fighting. Aphrodite stole him away. And so finally he's put his armor on. And the Trojan people see not just Hector coming back, but Paris coming with him. So seeing those two princes that are amazing warriors, the Trojans actually start doing really well. So they didn't even need to make that offering to Athene. In fact, Athene is like, oh my God, they're killing so many of my Greeks that I think we should call a truce. Let's figure out how to do a truce. So this is where on your packet, it's going to ask you about Athene's influence. So picking back up on page 41. So she put the thought into Hector's mind that before the sun went down, he should end the day with another challenge to single combat, like the one with which his brother Paris had begun it, but one which should not end in confusion as the other had done. He called off his men from the chase, sending word by his heralds to Agamemnon. When both sides were again seated on the ground, he issued his challenge, bidding the Greeks to send out a champion of their own choice against him. Menelaus stepped out to take the challenge for the second time that day, but the High King would not allow it, knowing that his brother would stand no chance against the mighty Hector. So once again, they drew lots out of a helmet, and this time the lot fell to Ajax of Salamis, tallest and strongest of the Greek war host. For the second time that day, the square fighting ground was marked out, and into it to meet Hector strode Ajax, blazing bright as the god of war himself, and carrying his great shield made of 7 ox hides behind a layer of bronze. They taunted each other after the manner of champions about to fight, and then betook them to their spears. Hector made the first cast, and his spear went through the bronze and through 6 ox hides until the 7th held it. Then Ajax threw an answer, and his point went through shield and worked breastplate, but did no harm, for Hector had leapt sideways on the moment. Both men dragged out the throw spears and flung themselves upon each other, stabbing with their spears shortened. Ajax's blade caught Hector in the side of the neck, so that the dark blood welled out. Hector's spear rang on the boss of Ajax's shield, and the point was turned. He flung it aside and caught up a black and jagged stone lying nearby and crashed it upon the shield, but Ajax sprang back and, heaving yet a bigger stone, hurled it with all his strength against Hector, smashing the shield in on him, taking the strength from his knees, and flinging him over onto his back. Hector's world darkened and swam, but he scrambled, grasping to his feet, his hand going for his sword. Ajax's sword was also out, and in a moment more they would have been close locked, blade to blade. But heralds from both armies came running and thrust their staves between them and bade them cease, for both had proved themselves worthy champions, and the night was coming on. Leaning on his sword, with the sunset dazzling his eyes, Hector agreed to their command. Let us stop the fighting this day. We shall fight on afterward until the gods send one of us the victory. But now the day ends, and it is good to give way to the night. I'm content to do what you say, Ajax replied, and then they looked at each other without hatred. Then Hector said, Maybe we shall not meet again in battle. Therefore, let us part with an exchange of gifts, that people may say of us in time to come, those two fought as enemies, but when they parted, they were joined in friendship. He sent for a sword with silver work on the hilt and gave it to Ajax. And Ajax gave him in return a broad belt rich with purple. And so they parted and went back, each to his own side. And night came seeping among the ancient grave mounds and the tamarisk scrub.